franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating, or relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com.
Listen to The Barry Morgan Show, live weekdays noon to 3 on CJAD 800 and CJAD.com.
Now, relationship and dating news. Dr. Laurie is off today, but in studio is Frank Kermit, who typically sits in for Dr. Laurie Bettito. Frank is a dating and relationship coach, and he has written a lot of books and articles on the subject of dating and relationships. Frank, how are you? It's great to see you.
I'm doing okay, Barry. Thank you for having me.
And in my hands, What to Say, Frank's latest book. There's a very happy-looking couple, I guess. They're walking on the beach somewhere, hand in hand or arm in arm. 101 great first dates. What to Say. 101 conversation topics for both men and women. And Frank, you know, this is a great book. Mm-hmm. I've gone through quite a bit of it, to tell you the truth, and this is a great book for not just for dating, like, because I said before the news, you put dating aside for a second. These are great conversation starters for just in general.
That's right. The idea is that when you go on a first date, most people struggle with, well, what do I talk about?
Yeah, what am I going to say?
If you know what you're looking for long term, if you know the type of criteria you're seeking in any sort of partner for any kind of relationship structure, whether it's something very casual dating or something very serious like marriage, each criteria is a conversation topic. There's other things that people need to talk about on a first date that most people wouldn't necessarily think to even ask.
Yeah.
So I sat down and I prepared this little booklet. It's a really easy to read book, one topic per page. You flip it open. You can keep it in your car. You can just flip through it. The ebook version, something you have on your phone that while you're on a date, you go to the bathroom. Yeah. And you just remind yourself that there's a lot of things you can talk about to find out about the person you're with.
And you got Cribs notes maybe on your, just
pretty much.
While you're in the washroom, let me get the pen out and where's, no, that arm's covered. Let me move over to the other one. So give me a few examples here, Frank. I do have the book in front of me, but maybe highlight some of the ones that you really like.
Okay, the ones that I really like, best childhood memory. So pick a best childhood memory and really learn to describe it in a way that's going to engage the person that you're dating.
You're doing a sell job, basically. That's what you're doing. You're selling
putting
yourself.
Your best foot forward.
Yeah.
Look, one of the rules of dating is that when you go on a date, you're supposed to put your best self forward.
Yeah, okay. Hide all the bad stuff.
No.
That's after you're married for a while. Oh, is she really like that? Oh, does he really do that? Yeah.
You don't hide the bad stuff, but you do need to bring up some of the bad stuff as well.
You do?
Some of the things, like, let's say, where do you think you're vulnerable? That might be something to mention on a first date. If there's something about
just elaborate on that if you don't mind.
Okay, let's say that you have a learning disability of some kind. You don't just come out and say, oh, by the way, I got a learning disability, you're going to have to deal with it. You may want to bring it up, though, as a form of vulnerability to say, well, I do have a learning disability, but here's how I have learned to cope. Letting the person know that, okay, if you're going to be with me, certain things that you're going to have to be aware of that's going to affect us from day to day. Yeah. There's other questions that, due to some recent legal cases and some seminars I've taken, such as sexual attitudes reassessment seminars, where found out that, let's say you're dating someone and they have a sexually transmitted disease, infection. They're not under the obligation to necessarily share that with you if the date leads to some sort of physical intimacy.
They're not under?
They're not obligated to share that with you. One of the questions that comes up in court cases when people end up suing someone saying, hey, you infected me. Question comes up, says, did you ask the person? Because if you didn't ask the person if, they were clean before you engaged with them, was it really that important to you? And so one of the questions to ask if the date is going to get sexually intimate is, do you have anything that I could catch?
We'll save that for date number 2, maybe?
Well, look, some people do have sex on a first date.
Yeah.
So it's in the list of topics to discuss. It should be discussed before you have sex. Some people might want to bring it up earlier. I generally don't recommend that.
I mean, that could say, okay, the date's over and see you later, like really quick.
Look, it can, yeah. But with a number of these topics, when you find something out that's going to be something that you're just not going to want to deal with, it's better to find those things out right away and stop wasting time with the wrong person.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, what else do we have here? Maybe, what am I seeing here? Then and now story?
Then and now. Well, back then, life for me was this way, and now I feel differently about the topic. This is so you want to let the person know that maybe you felt very strongly about a certain position many years ago, that you even fought for it, and now, for whatever reason, you don't feel that way. It's just to let the person know that, depending on the use of reason, that you're actually open to changing your mind about things. It's also to let them know that if they know you for something specific, let's say you endorsed a particular political party many years ago, when that person knew you when you were younger, and here it is 15 years later, and you no longer endorse that particular political party, you endorse a different political party. Explain the process as to why you made that change.
Okay.
It lets the person know how you have grown as a person and things that are now important to you that maybe were not important to you to begin with.
Certainly gives you a lot of opportunity to talk there. What else do we have here? What makes you the prize?
Here the idea is, and this is when I work with somebody one-on-one in coaching, so many people feel down about themselves. They don't recognize what it is they offer. They don't recognize what makes them a great relationship candidate, aka the prize. So when I sit down with them and I go over that list and say, okay, well, let's make up a list of why you are the prize. They may discover something on that list that they have always taken for granted. Something that they may not even realize adds to the reason why they are the prize. So, because it's a conversation topic, person has to sit there and say, well, why am I the prize? Why should this person want to date me a second time or a third time? So by acknowledging that you offer something, it brings up a conversation topic that puts you also in a very, very good positive frame of mind. And that's attractive.
Peak life experience.
Peak life experience. Let's say something really amazing has happened to you. Maybe changed the course of your life. Maybe it was something you achieved, a goal or a certificate you've earned. Something that really defines a big part of your life. It's a great conversation topic to go to. Not the same thing as bragging, but the idea is, well, a peak life experience for me was being a guest on the Barry Morgan Show, making 13 appearances.
Breaking 100 on a golf course.
Exactly.
That's a pretty peak life experience for me. It just doesn't happen as often as I would like.
But the fact that it happened, and tell me about the amount of work it took for you to get there.
Oh, plenty of work and a lot of money.
And why were you passionate about it? Why were you dedicated to that?
Well, that's the thing, I guess, right? Talk about things that are passionate to you. And, I mean, these are common sense. This is common sense stuff, though, isn't it?
Look, there's no such thing as common sense.
I buy that.
The idea is that when you're on a date, you're getting to know somebody, more than likely you are nervous. And having a little list of things to say, hey, these are the things you should be talking about, not about your nerves. I was coaching somebody the other day, and they had a very, very bad date because the person that they dated was talking about a huge loss they experienced recently. Now, yes, you may need to mention, look, I'm not going to be in the best of spirits today. I just suffered a huge loss, but I still want to be on this date.
Yeah.
The person in question here, however, spent a good hour on the date talking about the loss and the things related to the loss.
Like money or family or?
I don't want to get into the details,
all right.
But let's assume it was money, okay?
Fair
Just
enough.
for argument's sake. Look, I just lost, $45,000 in the stock market. Okay, let's say something like that.
I don't blame them for talking about it.
Sure, but they're on a date. It's not a therapy session.
Yeah.
And that's where you have to say, look, I'm not going to be in the best headspace. I just lost $45,000 in the stock market. I'm not going to end up homeless or anything. It's kind of weighing on my mind. But you know what? I don't want to talk about that. That's where you have to be proactive.
How could they not talk about it if they've already brought it up, right? It's like, wait a second, you just lost $45,000. I mean,
right. You bring it up to say, this is so, if you see that I'm kind of not into it, I don't want you to mistake it as disinterest in you.
Okay.
So you're setting that boundary. I'm bringing it up to let you know what's going on, but this is not the way I usually am. I'm usually in better spirits. So I'm just setting that there so that you know.
You're listening to Barry Morgan on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
And Frank Kermit as well. Frank Kermit is in studio. He's a dating and relationship coach, and for Dr. Lori Bettito this afternoon.
Need help with love, sex, dating, and relationships? Visit franktalks.com.
You're listening to Barry Morgan on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
And Frank Kermit as well. Frank Kermit is in studio. He's a dating and relationship coach, and for Dr. Lori Bettito this afternoon. And Frank, on psychologytoday.com, marriage, living together, or staying single. And they say in their last blog post, they talked about how marriage has become more difficult today, but social scientists still argue that marriage allows for a better quality of life than living together or living alone altogether. And they found that married couples have better mental and physical health, that they're less likely to suffer chronic diseases, long-term illnesses. They have a better chance of surviving a catastrophic event like a heart attack, which makes sense. And we've talked about this with you before, with Lori as well. I think, somebody's there. Well, they're obviously there to help you. They see something, maybe you should get that checked out. Whereas somebody living alone, for whatever reason, they may not be so inclined. But you were telling me earlier that there's this movement among some people, at least, that they absolutely are dead set against marriage, and not just that, but even being in a relationship at all.
I'm telling you that what I see in my practice is there are people that refuse to even date.
Why?
Well, for some of them, they just don't see the point. Too many failed relationships in their history. Some of them just don't want to date because they grew up in environments where they witnessed a horrible, let's say, coupling of their own parents. Mm-hmm. And they're saying, I don't want to go through that. I don't want to deal with the fighting. I don't want to deal with
stress and the stress,
the court systems. I don't want to deal watching, because some of these kids grew up watching parents lie about one another through the court systems. And they're saying, I don't want to be a part of that. There's an entire movement of younger men called Men Going Their Own Way. They refer to themselves as MGTOW.
Okay.
And their attitude is, if you really need sex, go pay for it. But date casually, but don't ever get serious. Don't ever get married. Don't ever have kids of your own.
Because of the potential pitfalls.
Well,
and really, what are you
supposed
supposed
to? There's a lot of risks.
There's a lot of risks. You're talking about a divorce rate that's really high, kids and the stress and the money and all that jazz. And to a certain extent, I might have shared that sort of philosophy a long, long time ago when I was much, much younger. But then you get a little older, at least, in my case, and I was in my late 30s, or pretty much my late 30s, when I got married and eventually had a child. And, the greatest thing that's ever happened to me is having a son, and so I feel kind of bad for some people. Those guys are pretty young, the ones you were talking about, I'm guessing, for the most part.
Look, some of them are as young as 18.
Yeah, well, how do they know at this age?
Well, they already have been experienced to some of the worst aspects of it. So they maybe have been involved in cases where there was a false accusation made from one parent to the other. And usually in those cases, the false accusations are against the male parent. So they're going up and saying, I don't want any part of this.
So what do you tell somebody when you hear this kind of story?
My attitude is, if you don't want to be dating and if you don't want to be in a relationship, then stay out. If ever you do want to experience that, that's where I would work on with them is, let's find your ability to choose the right partner for you.
But how do you change the mindset? To get rid of the cynicism or the skepticism?
The only thing that we can do when somebody has that much angst about it is to look at all of the positives that they would receive if they found the right partner. The key, again, is, can you find the right partner for yourself? Are your expectations reasonable? If what you're looking for actually exists. But if you're battling some kind of trauma, and usually there's always some kind of trauma involved, then what you're looking to do is, at that point, is where I would recommend somebody for therapy.
Yeah. Okay.
Because this is not a coaching issue per se.
Holidays are literally, just a few weeks away. Christmas is coming up, and a lot of people looking forward to it for obvious reasons, but others not so much. And I don't want to make the suggestion that because somebody's single that they're miserable during the holidays. Because not all single people are. Some people are very happy to be on their own for the reasons that you just pointed out. That said, though, there are a lot of people who, would like to be in a relationship when the holidays are here for obvious reasons. So what do you tell people like that, Frank?
I tell them this is the best time to meet somebody new.
Yeah?
If you're single during the holidays and you're miserable because you're single, this is the best time to go out there and let everybody know you're looking to meet someone. Nobody wants to be alone during the holidays if they are seeking some kind of potential partner. So this is a great time to let everybody know, hey, I don't want to be alone over the holidays. If you know anybody I'm willing to date, there are a lot of people, and I see this in my practice. It blows my mind. Because the holidays are such a busy time, the work schedules, the projects that have to get done, the final exams, they just simply say, okay, you know what, I'll deal with this whole dating thing after the holidays, because they just don't have the time between the gift getting and the traveling and all these other things. What I try to tell them is this is the perfect time to go out and date somebody, because again, no one wants to be alone. Nobody wants to be alone New Year's Eve when it's midnight and you don't have anyone to kiss. Everybody's looking to connect somewhere, somehow. But you have to be proactive. You can't wait for somebody to ask you out. You can't wait for someone to invite you somewhere. You're the one that has to be proactive and say, I'm already planning to be at these specific places. And if you are going to go to a holiday party and there's nobody there for you to meet, and I want you to listen to me very carefully, everybody. Holiday parties where you go, but it's the same set of friends, same set of family. There's nobody for you to meet. Go, make an appearance, say thank you very much, and then put yourself in a position where there are other single people for you to meet. That's one of the biggest mistakes singles make at this time of year. Well, I can't go to that singles event. I'm going to my friend's holiday party. Well, that friend's holiday party is mostly couples, and there's nobody new there for you to meet. Don't go. Or if you go, make an appearance and then leave.
Yeah.
There are so many opportunities to meet new people over the holidays, but you have to make it a priority.
Somebody texted here, how come so many couples break up before the holidays?
The holidays are a time of major reflection, and this is when people say, okay, the holidays are coming up. What have I accomplished since the last time we celebrated the holidays? So they start to remember the year.
Taking stock
and saying, you know what, this year really wasn't any good. And with the upcoming holidays, I may have to deal with in-laws. I may have to deal with families. I may have to go into debt buying everybody gifts.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm not in a relationship with that person, I don't have to buy a whole bunch of gifts anymore.
But on the flip side, some people might delay it till after the holidays, so they do have somebody to kiss on New Year's Eve.
That's right. And these are people that are doing what they believe is the right thing, but for the wrong reason. Look, if you really are miserable where you are, then you need to consider moving on. Now, if you're going to stay there because you want to make it work, because you're saying, look, I'm going to try this. I haven't completely exhausted all of my options to help fix the situation. Then you stay and you do what you can to make it work. Sometimes you have kids in the matter. Yeah. And you don't want to do this in the middle of their school year. You know, what I often advise young parents, when I say young parents, I mean young families where you have kids in elementary school or high school. Mm-hmm. If you're going to do your major breakup, do it over the summer. Don't do it in the middle of the school year, because the amount of time that you're going to have to spend playing catch-up and dealing with the school counselors and helping your kids stay focused on school while you're dealing with this stuff, it's not worth it, okay? You're thinking 6 to 8 months of peace of mind. There is no peace of mind when your kids are suffering from this. I have yet to meet one parent who said, yep, that was a good idea. Well, to put my kid through that. Not one parent ever says that.
I gotcha. Hey, Frank, it's always so great to see you.
It's always great to be here. I wish I could be here more often.
And that is Frank Kermit, dating and relationship coach. His latest book, I've lost track, What to Say, 101 Conversation Topics for Both Men and Women.
News Talk Radio, CJAD 800, CJAD.com.
Frank